welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, CaptainLogun, and we've got a lot of conversation to have today with Caleb on this week's episode of Keelhauled podcast. So tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. It was the holidays. I hope you're enjoying yourselves. I hope you're safe. I hope you found some good deals, and I hope you remember to pick up those free emotes in the Emporium. This week, we're going to be talking with Caleb about everything and anything that he could possibly think of and more. So sit back, relax, and let's get into it. But before we get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons. They are the ones that help support this content, which means that I have a way to get some funding towards putting together the new PC. I'm on the new PC. This is the new PC. It is really fast. The extra RAM is amazing. I can play all my games now at 60 frames per second, even though I'm using the old graphics card. And that's kind of next on the docket. But I want to shout out Stormy Sea Dog and Godhammer, as well as Mina Fairy, and I'm trying to think, Beatonator. All of you guys all really kind of helped with just like advice over the time and kind of help giving me an idea of like what I should be looking out for, things like that. So thank you to all for the recommendations, the support, the knowledge that you've been sharing with me about building up this PC. It's fantastic. I love it. It's really nice to not feel like things are just slogging around and whatnot. So I'm trying to get a new stand for it. I'm going to be hunting down that because the case is way bigger than I thought, and it's on a really tiny table at the moment, but that's okay. I'll figure all that stuff out now. But thank you to everyone who helped kind of put this all together, to who supported this and stuff. So I want to shout out all the patrons. They are the ones that support the content, and it means a lot to me that they do so. So thank you to People's Republic, L Cute, Balls, Blue Turtle V1, Captain Chonky, Captain Hayes, Chateau Noof, Super Pack, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, DA Gaming, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, I'm Dependa Now, Jorpy Jorbs, J Hood, Carl Embo, Kazia the Aficionado, Cryptic Slayer, Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, Space Admiral Ors, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Nipperkim, Norwegian, Raja the Brave, Regis Stella the Brony Pirate, Replicated Flame, Rust Belt Kid, Scamelt 666, who recently just got their Reaper Mark tattoo. Looked awesome, by the way. Captain Dasm, Tommy D, TN Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Anthony N. Jr., Captain J. Rat of the Flaming Cold Sore, The Lore Chronologist, Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H., Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, Luke Lore the Insipid Ghost, and Zam Wow. Thank you all so much for the support. If you want to do so yourself, if you want to support the content that I'm making, head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast as we continue to find out more about season 10 and season 11 as we talk about in this episode. So thank you to everyone for supporting, and let's get into it. Welcome everyone to this week's episode of Keelhauled podcast. I am sitting down with Caleb. He and I are going to be talking about a whole bunch of stuff, but namely we're going to be talking about the patch notes, as well as an upcoming feature that is for season 11 that we have no guidance on what it is, but it is very important to get this information out to you so you know what to expect in the coming month, I guess, is when it's going to be. They didn't even give us a date. I think they could have given us a date. But anyway, before I get into it, I want to welcome Caleb back to the show. He stole the show back in June. The crew mutinied, and I got it back as a result. But welcome back to the show. How are you doing? And no more mutinies.
I'm doing great. And boy, was I honored that you entrusted me with your podcast. I hope everyone enjoyed it. And thank you so much for having me back.
Yeah. So usually, I know that in the past you've had kind of like a theme or like a topic that you wanted to dive into. But you've been wanting to jump back into the show. So I'm assuming that you've got like some sort of kind of docket or checkboxes you want to mark, make sure we get a chance to talk about? So,
I had sort of the funny idea that maybe I'll let you lead your podcast in the direction you would like. I know it's crazy, but that's what I thought this time. Past Caleb coming up with themes, that's cringe. That's yesterday. He's gone. This is new Caleb. He's now with 10% less cringe and 10% more based. I'm red-pilled. I'm blue-pilled. I took them both, and it's a timely Matrix reference, and we're all ready.
I feel like there's so many people that have no clue what you're talking about with the red pill, blue
I'll tell you
pill.
something.
I'm not even sure.
I barely know what I'm talking about when I speak. But I will say when I listen to podcasts in the past and they have like a special guest and that kind of just turns into an interview or some kind of special episode. In the past, I've always been like, that's not why I tuned into this podcast. Generally, I don't even know who the heck this person is. I'm interested in you. You're the person that is running the podcast. So whenever I have guests on my show, I think maybe with one exception, it always is just a normal episode. You know, hey, this topic is on romance. So Christian and I are going to talk about romance. And this guest is just like a third host. There's nothing special. He's not treated like an interview. He just gets to have his say as if this was his show too. I'm all about that. Your special guest is a guest, not special.
Gotcha. That's totally fine. In that case, okay, so I wanted to bring up a couple things before we get into patch notes, because we did get some patch notes. This is patch 2.9.1 for season 10. This is kind of talking a little bit more about the Skull of Siren Song voyage, as well as the guilds, and then the combat improvements and stuff. There's some things that I want to dive into with that, but before we get into that, I wanted to bring up the Tide Blazers episode and where are we with the next episode, because I helped promote the first episode. I know we've recorded a bunch since then, but do you have an ETA on when we can expect that second episode to come out?
I do not, because it relies on Caleb not procrastinating, which is a difficult bet to take. I literally have medicine that helps with it that I'm not taking because, what's the medicine for fixing my procrastination? It requires me to do something on a schedule and not procrastinate about it. I'll get right on that. So I don't know. I've edited I've edited like a quarter of the episode, and we have episodes after that recorded. Sometimes I get like, I bank up like 4 or 5 episodes, and then a certain week I just get a productive week and I bang them all out. So I don't know when it'll come out, but it's been a delight. Been really cool. You know, when I looked at the Sea of Thieves system when it first came out, I thought I'd like to see what this system can do for not Sea of Thieves, not being the Sea of Thieves world. Could I use this system to do anything, a fantasy, or even if it is a seafaring adventure, could it be possible?
Yeah.
And nothing has upset me more that what I'm doing with it is a Sea of Thieves adventure. But I came up with a story that I think is really good, and I was like, I just got to do it. So I picked some of the people I know who like Sea of Thieves and who would really, I think, thrive on that show. And you, chief among them. So happy you joined us. And if anyone doesn't know what we're talking about a live action sort of actual play where we're playing the Sea of Thieves role-playing game together, recording it, and then afterwards I edit it to make it kind of like an audio drama, so sound effects, music, things like this. And it's a really great way to have everyone that's there part of telling the story, but presenting it as if it was a pre-written story. It's really, I hope you guys have been enjoying it.
Yeah, reminds me a lot of like those old audio dramas, like back in the 50s and 40s and stuff, where like it reminds me of the Christmas Story, where the kids like listening to the drama, and there's like that code decipher thing that he had to do for the Ovaltine, and it was like drink your Ovaltine. That's what effectively this is, but for Sea of Thieves, using the Sea of Thieves RPG system that Mongoose Gaming published back in like early days of the gaming. Like I think it was like the first or second year that Sea of Thieves like had gone to Mongoose Publishing, who do other or like video game based RPG games for like tabletop use. And we've been kind of working through. I think you've done a lot of work to come up with stuff that is unique that is not part of their system, but you're using the baseline of how that system works to create new enemies and new weapons and things like that, to try and build up around that. So it's been really interesting to kind of work through that. I know if you guys want to see something like this kind of in action in like a video version, Freddie Prinze Jr. over on, I think it was Geghead channel. He has a weird kind of Geghead. I don't even remember what it stood for, but he did do a few sessions with some of his acting friends in the tabletop RPG, and he had a big old map, and he had like, you know, brigantines and little pirate figures and stuff, and they kind of went through and kind of worked through that system. I don't think they ever finished a campaign, but that kind of thing gives you, and I think there's even an episode that I did of this like way back in the day, covering this. But effectively, like that should still be up available if you want to get like kind of a visual idea of what we're doing. If you have imagination, if you're one of those adults out there that still has an imagination, first off, kudos. But secondly, you probably get a kick out of these, especially if you like that kind of critical role type of audio content.
Let me tell you, I really deeply, and some people have said it's to a fault, but I disagree, believe in the intelligence of my listeners. I don't feel like holding their hands. I feel like they can figure it out. And the Sea of Thieves, this show, Tide Blazers that we're making, I really, really feel that way for. It's like designed for people who have played the game before. I give vague descriptions of things at times that I feel if they're very, very needed. But I figure the listener who has played Sea of Thieves understands what a fort is. I don't have to go into depth about this. And so if you've played Sea of Thieves, which I'm assuming if you're listening to the show you have, and you listen to Tide Blazers, you're going to catch a lot of things above the average listener. I'm not going to hold your hand, and you're not going to have to sit there and hear, well, what the heck is a fort?
Yeah, I think the main thing here is that you're looking to try and give something to people who are already like familiar. Like you don't have to explain like why bananas work on Keelhauled.
Right.
Like that's already that's understood. The idea is to give us like a secondary story to Sea of Thieves that it still kind of lives within that world. Like this could be a quest line or a story that Rare put out, and it would be something that you could play through, but it would be instead of in the game. It's
it actually wouldn't be something they would put out because they don't write stories this good. You guys listen to it, and when you get to the end, you'd be like, wow, Rare, they don't even understand
we're not getting,
what storytelling is.
We're not getting this aggro early into the episode. We got lots
Let me
of
ask you a question.
To
It was A Christmas Story, I believe is the name of the movie you referenced, an important touchstone in your childhood? Because I've heard you reference that Ovaltine many times.
Well, the Ovaltine thing is because of the way that they did the mysteries for Sea of Thieves. And the reason I bring it up is because in A Christmas Story, Ralphie is so invested in this audio drama and deciphering this code and finding out what the secret message is. And the secret message becomes is literally just an advertisement for Ovaltine. And in the whole image of like this audio drama and the cowboys and stuff, it's all just shattered for him. Yeah. Like his whole world is just shattered for him. And when we did the first mystery, and the one thing we had to do was like we had to retweet and like a post from Sea of Thieves to unlock the next part of DeMarco's death. And then it just became another engagement tool for Rare to use to further on the story. And they kept doing it. Like they're like, figure out what the code is. And then when you figure it out, that's how many likes and subscribes you got to get. And it's like, you see the man behind the curtain at that point, and you realize that the mystery is just an engagement tool on top of like with a really nice veneer, right? Sure. So that's why the Ovaltine thing keeps coming back, is because it's like that. But this just happens to be the fact that it is an audio drama. There's not like a a secret message that people have to work out. There's nothing, nefarious about this just being an advertisement for Ovaltine or, whatever it is. But for as far as like a childhood touchstone, yes. I used to watch A Christmas Story on a seasonal basis every single year. Like it was always on like TNT or something. And I would always, sit down and watch through it. And, growing up, that was like one of the movies that they would just have 24/7. It was always on. They're like, this is the channel that now just shows the Christmas Story.
Yeah.
We might throw in a Miracle at 34th Street.
And It's a Wonderful Life.
In A Wonderful Life from time to time, like late at night when the parents are still up who remember this. But for the most part, no, it is 24/7 A Christmas Story. And that was like a good chunk of my childhood.
For me, that was Home Alone, both 1 and 2. I love those movies. I actually did not like A Christmas Story almost at all. And It's a Wonderful Life I actively dislike. I'm sorry to say, but I just ask you
I don't blame you on
simply
this.
Life. Anyone who likes It's a Wonderful Life, what happens to the villain? What's his comeuppance? I don't know how you can enjoy a story of which the villain gets away with everything.
I mean, there's plenty of times where there are stories that I will say that the hero does not win. That sometimes those are some of the best stories that I've
certainly.
seen.
That's not the case for a Go Happy Christmas movie. It's a Wonderful Life. It's also like, it's one of those moments where like one of those movies where there's like a darkness in it that as a kid I wasn't prepared for. That was the same with Alice in Wonderland, like the animated. I guess Disney probably put it out. I remember I was at a parent's friend's house for, I don't know if it was a Christmas time, but it was definitely winter. And, it gets late enough that they got to put me to bed, but they can still hang out with their friends. So I get put up into their master bedroom. This was, to me, as this little kid, a giant bedroom. Like when Hook says, to a 10-year-old, I'm huge. This giant bedroom. And it's an unfamiliar place. It's dark. All the lights are off. And they go, we'll just put on a Disney movie for them. They put in Alice in Wonderland. I'm in a place I don't know. And this bizarre and dark movie gets put on. That was a formative experience for young Caleb, but it was not a positive formative experience for young Caleb. I don't know how you show that movie to any child.
I don't know. But anyway, we're getting off topic. I don't remember where we had gotten. See, this is the problem with the tangents. But I wanted to talk about the patch notes going into 2.9.1. Starting off with Seeking the Siren Song. First off, let me kind of I want to get a gauge on your opinion on this, because there's been a bit of discourse in the community for this on whether or not this is a good voyage or a bad voyage. Like, did Rare succeed on this voyage? And I think it comes down to either yes or no, but it's whether or not this is a good long-term insertion of content, or if it's a failure on that part. Like, is it a failure because they didn't plan on this being something that was going to last? Or is it a success because it does what it like? I'm having trouble formulating my words here on this.
I think I know what your question
effectively is. Yeah. So some people are saying that it's a failure because there's times where it goes uncontested, and that the other point of the failure aspect of it is that it's not a good long-term world event. What do you think about it? Anything
that they try designing this game is put into the box of there is only a certain number of ships and or players that can be on a server at a time, and sometimes you feel like you're almost on your own server. People are just doing other things and they're not interested. You have all kinds of player, could be a bunch of brand new people, and so it seems uncontested. That is, excuse me, I hit my mic. That is going to inform everything that comes out in this game. So if you can accuse this voyage of that, you can accuse literally anything gets added to this. So that, I think it just gets balanced out. That we found the common denominator, we've got to divide by it and get it out of here. That aside, I think it's a wonderful voyage. It kind of appears to me to be what they sort of wanted Reaper's chest to be. There's a stream in the sky. This thing is very valuable. You want to fight for it. And no matter what they did, even with the Chest of Legend new accommodations that came out, I got you rewards for turning in Reaper's chests. For some reason, it just didn't grip what they wanted to. I feel that this has fulfilled that in a much better way. In fact, I'm a little curious as to why you need to accept the voyage and you don't just get to see the shining beam of blue light just because you're on the server without having to accept it. Maybe it's because they didn't want to have to hit you with Briggsy talking to you every time it popped up, even if you didn't care. They don't want another, Flameheart's head shouting at you in the sky. It's very reminiscent to me. As many times as I do the Legend of the Veil voyage, I enjoy the story tall tale aspect to it, where the pirate lord comes on, even though I even don't like the guy, comes on, talks to me. His ending speech is like one of my favorite things that is ever said in the Sea of Thieves. Oh my gosh, I say it's my favorite now. I can't remember. It was like mischief in their souls and adventure in their hearts. And so having her appear on your ship and give a little speech, I think it's such a classy touch. I really, really like that part of it.
Yeah. I see where people are coming from this. And I think the thing, if I can touch on one point that you made about why this isn't just auto accepted, I think they wanted this to be an active choice for players to get involved with the digging and the keys and stuff like that. Like if you wanted to do it, then you would have to actively accept it. And there's a contract that is made with that. If you're going to accept that voyage from Briggsy, knowing who Briggsy is, or maybe not knowing who Briggsy is, then you will see like immediately, like, okay, you are going to be involved with the gathering of this, or maybe not, but it's not something like, because you get voyages, right? And those are going to be in your voyage wheel. And if it just auto accepts, then it's going to populate these two random things in your pirate wheel. And if you're just working through your stuff and you're not really paying attention to the icon, you may dig up something that you do not want on your ship.
You just made me think of, people who get upset that they get sunk and they're like, why would you even sink me? I'm not an hourglass. And it's like, you have the emissary up. There's a little notification that comes up every time. It says, hey, emissary, you get increased rewards, but you're more valuable to other crews. And somehow even that obnoxious note that I'm like, I wish it would stop because I've seen it too many times, doesn't get through to people. So I can imagine a person, not even necessarily a brand new person, but a person like that all of a sudden has two voyages in their wheel. And they're like, where did these come from? What's the blue light? I don't know about any of this. This doesn't make any sense to me. Why is this guy chasing me? That they have to accept it. They get a little speech about it, and Briggsy's very specific, says, other crews are going to be for this. That makes a lot of sense. I know that me, having finished all the voyages, no longer needing it for just about anything, still always accept the quest, because I'd like to know where those people are about, so I can know just where my enemies are at any given point.
Yeah, it's good information for understanding, like, if someone's moving towards something. And opportunity always rises. So, but what I want to go to address too is I don't think I got your feelings on whether or not you think this is a good quest or a bad quest on the aspect of it being uncontested at times.
Yeah, I mean, if it's going to be uncontested, like I said, that's a common denominator you got to divide by. It's uncontested. I, who enjoyed the big battles, one of my favorite parts about this voyage is, oh wow, I'm getting into multiple ship battles. The thing that makes me not do Hourglass past the rewards I got from it is, just the one-on-one isn't infinitely replayable for me. Having multiple ships, now that's a lot of fun, and boy, sure did I have a lot of fun. But as much as I enjoy that, the times it goes uncontested, I'm like, great, a free turn in. I'm trying to get to my 30 turned in, or my 50 dug up, or my 40 chests opened. That nobody bothered me. I'm accepting that, even though I enjoy the battle. So variety's the spice of life, my friend. Give me some uncontested. I'm loving that you sprinkle those in here.
Yeah, so that has a lot to do with how I feel about it as well too. Because, for example, I went and hopped on a server just to test the new PC that I'm on.
Congratulations.
And thank you. It was a lot of money, and the patrons made a big deal in making that actually happen. And I'm very, very happy with it right now. The only thing that will make it better is when I get a chance to actually get like a new GPU.
Anime boob mouse pad. I got you. Christmas is up. It's coming up. I'm ready to send you it. You just tell me your favorite anime character. Is it Ray? You're a Ray person. I knew it. Send it to you.
Ray.
Yep.
Wow, that is a dated reference. Only people in their 30s and 40s, maybe 50s, are going to even understand that.
And all of Japan. The way that has culturally gripped their society is bizarre to me.
That's probably true. But gosh, you killed me on this one. Okay, so I was so the whole goal of it is that I went out sailing. And I happened to be on a server, and the Voyage was there. So I got into it. There was a skull cloud up, and I started to go to the 2 islands. One of them was Fool's Lagoon. The other was Cannon Cove, to go and actually like dig up the chests. And as I'm like sailing around to the different islands, and I pick up the key for one, and then I sail over to Cannon Cove to get the chest, or vice versa. I can't remember if it was the key was on Cannon Cove. As I'm sailing there, I'm alone on my sloop, just on lunch break, and I see a galleon over at the Skull Fort that is, I blinked on the one that it's just next to Discovery Ridge. What is that one called? Sailor's Knot?
Heck,
I think.
You're asking the wrong person.
How dare. And there's a galleon over there, and they're working on the Skull Fort, and I'm like, okay, noted. And then as I get to Cannon Cove, I look on the horizon, and just getting into the storm over on Lone Cove was another galleon. And I'm like, holy cow. If they come after me, this is going to be very bad if they get the wind. But I still go for it. And even though I made it all the way to Sunken Grove uncontested, I still had to have like the fear that those galleons at any point could drop what they're doing and get to me. And I didn't even know what other ships were on the server that could be over in the wilds, given how populated the Shores of Plenty were. So the whole time I am constantly like on edge, thinking, where's the next ship going to come from? Are they going to finally make their way to me? I'm in a sloop. There's a good chance I'm probably going to be too slow. So even the uncontested ones still have a sense of anxiety or uncertainty with them that, yes, you may get it uncontested, but the chances of you not worrying about the potential of a fight are there.
Sorry, I was just writing a note.
No worries.
Give me a second. When I talk about in the past, I don't think I've done it very much, but certainly in the first episode I came on talking about Alliance servers and private PvE servers and things like this. One of the main things, the reason I'm talking about this, because I feel like there is 2 different kinds of games, at least in this game. One is the adventure game, and the other is the sort of not competitive per se, but the fighting other pirates game. And so that you can have both here. If it's uncontested, you can enjoy the private, I just want to go dig these up, play around with the new skull turn and have fun. And you can also have the, I want to have 5 ship fight. I want to be, I've got a million stories that I won't bore you with. Matter of fact, I kept like the first time I turned into one of these skulls, I wrote down on your Discord the story of what happened because it was so crazy. And then the second time I did. And then the third time I started typing, I went, wait a second, Caleb, you need to stop. But it felt like everything was noteworthy. Every battle was like, oh, you should have seen it when I got on the island and I was fighting off 2 other guys. And then there was somebody waiting there. Oh, there was 2 different crews camping, which happened to me. I was one of the other crews, unaware of each other. Amazing stuff. Really comes. I haven't seen a lot of stories come out of a newly added feature in Sea of Thieves in quite some time. That may be the, what's the French? What is it saying? The little bit of hard to pick out thing that you can't put your finger on, the intangible something about this voyage. It makes it feel, people go, Sea of Thieves is saved, and these other kind of bombastic
the
titles.
Magic.
Yes, is the fact that it's on the tip of my tongue. I can't stand that. I can't think of it.
Is
that you're getting these stories.
On.
It's creating these exciting moments that are giving you these stories. And as much fun as, let's say, the Fort of Fortune might be, or the much fun as guilds might be, they're not necessarily creating these kind of stories. And so having something that's a lot of fun, but then creates these stories, gets out these moments where you want to tell what happened because it was so exciting, is the bit here, that the little piece of magic, little bit of pixie dust that got dusted on top of this edition.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think that's for me what makes this a success, is that even if it is for a short period of time, it recaptured and proved that there is a good formula for Sea of Thieves. Like, there is a good reason to have the PvEVP, or no, PvPvE, no, PvP, yeah, PvPvE aspect to the shared world. And it's things like this voyage that really kind of show off like why that's good, what's interesting about the game in a process. So for me, this was a success, even if it's not a long-term opportunity for players, because I think and I get that there's some bad arguments behind this, but there's so many times where something comes out and content gets left off or forgotten, and people don't like go back to do old stuff. Like, I don't know anyone that's actively trying to go out and work on merchant commodities besides like me, who's still trying to think about like remembering like whether or not I need to get some done or not, like that. Like, I'm never going to get the stolen commodity crates achievement finished because I didn't get it done when it was at its high point. So many times I still see people needing to have other crews turn in gifts and stuff like that. So
true,
there's always going to be something that is left behind with new content over time. Like, people are just going to move away and move to the next thing. And I think something like Briggsy's Note is a good version of this. It's exciting when it comes out. People will work on it until eventually they don't. But I still haven't seen a large number of people working on the Fort of the Dams for the Chest of Fortune. Now, maybe everyone's got it done and that's why they're not doing them anymore. But I just don't see anyone doing those. And I don't see anyone doing Fort of Fortunes now either. And I think that at the root of the issue here, I think it showcases that there is still a very large discrepancy between casuals, semi-casuals, hardcore, and professionals that all come together, and it's all based on economy, the gold economy. Like, there's just too much gold for people to have and nothing to spend it on. So the drive to go towards another ship that's working on something and to take what they're working on because you want it is now solely tied to cosmetics and not tied to gold. And I think that right there to me is the failing of what initially kicked off with Sea of Thieves, because eventually, but back in the day, you needed gold to buy all the cosmetics. And that's why you went and sunk people. That's why you went and stole forts. That's why you went and hid keys, because you wanted the gold. You didn't want the items in the fort to turn in because of what they unlocked. You wanted the gold so you could buy the cosmetics that were in the shops. If that tracks, or if that logic even pans out. And I trust your judgment when it comes to understanding like good arguments and stuff like that, because I have a hard time identifying like a good point. But is that salient?
I tell you, first off, what a poor decision to put your faith in me, but I will, of course, accept it and pray on it. I will say that I'm sure you can recall, if not specifically, vaguely, many people have come up independently and then latched on together for the idea of like, when you open the chest, instead of getting gold, you get the cosmetic. There was a point, at least in Sea of Thieves' life, where that really hit a strong point. And sort of the way they did that was this tied to the accommodations is a is a cosmetic, essentially tied to opening up this chest for the very first time, or actually I think it's the first dig up thing. What is the flag, and turning in the skull for the first time is the Brixie's coat. That's essentially what people were talking about there. So they are implementing it. In addition, implementing the gold. Depending on what you want to buy in this game, was whether or not gold is important to you, it's still, for somebody who plays a lot and even does the line servers, which gets you a lot of cash occasionally. Occasionally I play, not occasionally gives you a lot of cash. Even I am still in desire for the gold, because what I want is everything. I'm trying to buy everything. And they, on top of the Dark Adventure set, of which I have yet to complete the ship part of it, I never bought the sail. Haha. After just now, this is a funny thing. I never bought it. They also
what you're alluding to is the fact that they're going to be changing the look of it, so it's not a tactically advantage compared to others.
I put it off so long; it's no longer an issue. Is that the company sets, which is clothing, equipment, and weapons, have been released sometime this year, I believe, are very, very expensive. Like right now, to get just the merchant weapons, I think I need over 5 million. I don't quite recall what the number was, but each is a little bit close to $1 million. And so I've finally worked through buying all of everything. Everything I have left in this game to buy is just those merchant weapons and the Dark Adventure ship parts. And that's with all the gold I've ever gotten. So gold is still very important to me. Not to mention all the stuff added in Captaincy was all very expensive to try to buy all of that as well. So if you're the kind of person who just wanted these 5 items, gold's not going to be valuable to you. If you're the kind of person like me that wanted to get everything, or you're the kind of person who wants to get certain expensive sets, then the gold will be important to you. As well as it is both important to me to get the gold and to get the cosmetics for turning in 30. There's a reason I turned in 30 skulls and did it already. It's because I was really excited to get that mask. I think both, it's a good idea to have multiple facets of why somebody should do something, because you're going to catch more people that way.
Yeah. And that's a strong point to kind of address as well too. I do agree that helps kind of make sure that everyone's getting served. I think having more cosmetics come and trying to have like different tiers, like in a perfect world, what I imagine is kind of what the original trade companies did with their cosmetics. When you leveled up through them, you started very simple cosmetics, like you got a tankard, but that tankard didn't look very good. You know, it was themed like Order of Souls or Gold Hoarder, but it wasn't like elaborate or extravagant. And we've seen this with the captaincy system, where the gold sink there is to get the better base of the item, like a better portrait and stuff like that. So they have continued that mindset, and I think that mindset is good. I think some people do want to have the option to choose which kind of elaborate, because there's some people that want the rinky-dink looking version of the trinket or the cosmetic.
Sure. Yeah, I'm with you there.
Specifically for, and I think that's a valid thing to do. I think it's a hard way to kind of like populate that. I think you really have to redo all of the UI to accommodate that kind of a system.
I heard a good idea. After you place the trinket, then if you interact with that trinket again, you get the options of all the bases that you've earned for it.
Yeah. Tomas on Twitter, I think, is who you're referencing.
Probably.
Posted a very cool idea as far as like being able to cycle through the different, the way that you can change like your skeleton curse for Reapers, having a similar system set up for the trinkets so that you can unlock all of the different variations of base or frame, and then being able to choose within that item like which version of it you want. I think something like that for cosmetics is a good way to go as well too. That way, if you do have a set of cosmetics that come out, you have a very base standard version of it. If you want, you can buy the more elaborate version of it and continue to like sink gold into that same set and just kind of slowly open up better versions or more interesting versions, like Emporium level versions of that cosmetic in the store. And that will help kind of add more depth to the cosmetics to be able to mix and match, but additionally add an additional gold sink to help try and balance out how much gold people are making.
I remember the French term, it's je ne sais quoi.
Yeah.
I think that the voyage is overall a success. I don't know if I can articulate anything I don't like about it, except for maybe one point, which I think is kind of valid, is even if you haven't accepted the quest, if you sink, you respawn next to an island that is relevant for the quest. If I'm not doing the quest, that could really screw me over if I'm doing something on the other side of the map. Oh, I respawn next to people looking for a fight and away from the thing I was doing. That's a shame. I think that seems like an easy fix of that respawning system only works for people who voted for it. But we'll see what they do there. Enough people are talking about it. I feel like they're going to do something.
Yeah.
I think to talk about you're bringing up the point of, it kind of going by the wayside as many things mechanics in this game do. It's something that's on your ship. This isn't a cloud you ignore. This is something you actively go up and say, I don't want to do this, or I do want to do it. That might allow it to have more staying power. I don't understand I guess I do. The appeal of everything having staying power. For me, it's having a multitude of things I can do is fun. Do I want to do a sunken kingdom, what do you call those? A treasury, or do I want to go do a sea fort or regular fort? There's a million things I can do, so I don't get bored, because variety is more my shtick. I understand why people say it, because it's sort of the selling point of it is, hey, you're going to get combat. It's going to be hard fought over, and I think it will. I think it may cool down a little bit. I don't think you'll ever be like, I'm guaranteed to be free of it. Even just now, I've done a couple Fort of Fortunes, and I incorrectly thought, people don't want this anymore. It doesn't got the chest anymore. No one's going to fight me over it. Every time there's been people that have come contested it. So these things don't die off as much as you maybe think they will. So I think people who still want it to be something that's important, that you're at least going to get a little conflict or have the chance of having people come fight for it, I think that's going to stay, because I still see it stay with Fort of the Damned. I still see it stay with Fort of Fortune. These things that people thought were going to go away.
Yeah. I do think that there's an opportunity for this to have something to kind of like add on to it. So say you go to open the chest that has the actual skull. You can then have in that chest another voyage, and that voyage may be a voyage that unlocks and I think it was Godhammer in my Discord who brought up the idea, or brought over the idea, to talk about having the opportunity to add the chest of fortune to this, so that say you go and you get the key and you get the chest and you open up the chest, not only is there the Skull of Siren song in there, but additionally there's a voyage that will again give you a location for a chest of fortune that also would have like a beacon on it, so people would see like, oh, there's a beacon on that, like that may be the skull, it may be a chest of fortune. You're rewarded either way.
The purpose of the chest of fortune seems to be to bring the community towards something. So it makes sense that if this starts dying, then we can use this tool of the chest of fortune to revitalize it should it need revitalizing. When I think about that skull, I think about wanting to use it for PvE aspects more than just killing people and getting it to the turn in. And I always, it just doesn't work, because you go on any island, skeletons spawn. It's not just the turn in island. So you're just creating an infinite amount of PvE. You just drained your skull. You can't really use it to do force and things like this very easily. I'm sure it'd be fun to do it once or twice, just as a sort of a fun, unique thing to do once, a one-off. But it's really not its purpose. It makes me think of the Ashen Skull and how, it's no secret that these are similar. I don't know if there's a damage over time effect like fire. I see an effect kind of linger on enemies, but I don't know if there's a damage over time when you're not actively being hit by it.
With the Skull of Siren song.
Yes. Do you know?
Talking about? No, I don't. I mean,
I don't know
I've
if
seen
it's an
people
exact
get hit by
reskin or
it.
not. It might not have the DOT, but it's no secret. It's pretty much the same thing. So if that Ashen Wind Skull did not lose its value based on use, I think that would be a good way. I think it would be a good idea. Allow us to use the Ashen Wind Skull to do some PvE things with it. Kind of what one of its the reasons for its existence is almost not there because nobody wants to decrease its value. I think just like the Siren Skull, its value should remain unchanged when used. Give us a little more utility. Bring back a tool into the sandbox that we can use to have fun with this game. Because the Siren Skull just cannot do that.
Gosh, I can't decide how I feel about this, because I see why you're saying you'd like to have the value not diminish, but part of the fact that it does diminish makes it a conscious choice. But for new players, that's not communicated in any way outside of, I have two skulls. One gave me more, the other didn't. Which one? What was the difference there? But some people may not ever get like an opportunity to pay attention or really remember like how much they got.
It's always a thing that this game has to tackle is communication.
Yeah, and that's not necessarily the topic of the conversation this week. But
I will tell you, speaking of Fort of Fortunes and this skull, just yesterday did Fort of Fortune with a buddy. You know him, McTomies. He's the other player in Tide Blazers. One of the other players in Tide Blazers. We did a Fort of Fortune. We got the Ashen Wind Skull from killing the boss, and there was 3 dig-ups on the map. 2 of them were Ashen Wind Skulls. And we were Order of Souls Emissary. It couldn't have gone better for us.
Oh, that's so good.
Turned into
so awesome.
3. Sake of Brigand Sloop to do it. You love to see it.
But
all, love the Voyage. Very fun. As much as I said, Arena wasn't my favorite, I did like the multiple ship battle aspect of it. It's something that you can get with PvE that Hourglass doesn't provide. And it looks darn cool. Every part of it looks cool. The curse looks cool. The skull looks cool. The effect when it shoots out is cool. Very well done art side, I think.
I agree. I think everything that they've invested into this has been really good. The only issue that I have is not even like a whether or not this is like a good in Sea of Thieves or not. It solely pertains to Briggsy's involvement with it and the cognitive dissonance to the current state of the lore that doesn't fly for me. Like Briggsy's supposed to be trapped in being not trapped, but kind of like under the watchful eye of the Brethren Court right now. And right now, because of that, she should be helping like find the key to unlock the fort or whatever it is in the Sea of the Damned that we have to get to, that's going to turn that people want to get to be able to turn back from a skeleton to a human. That whole plot line has been
maybe this is maybe she needs this to get to do that.
Right, but I'm assuming that's where we're going. Like, I'm assuming that the skull is the thing that will open up whatever it is. But it feels like because we didn't finish that final voyage or that final adventure for the Briggsy Tasha tale, we don't know if that's actually accurate. Like, we're still on the cliffhanger of Tasha being stuck with one hand, no more cursed cannonball to protect her, and Briggsy supposedly telling us that she needs these for something that we don't really know, like the reason for it. And there's just a little bit of a lack of communication about whether or not the Brethren Court are involved in this. I
agree.
And speaking of,
it's easy for me to suspend disbelief, though. Like,
because it's
when
new and shiny
for the 57th
Veil Voyage,
Legend of the Veil quest, and I'm getting the gems that the story's way past having collect the gems for his staff mask thing. Yeah, but whatever. I want to do. It's fun.
I think that again always kind of goes back to the idea of one of the concerns I had with the story and where we're at with it when they introduced that. I was like, this is going to be weird in a year when the story's moved beyond it and it does not make sense. But getting into kind of like whether or not this is like overall, I would think that this is something that I think they should really kind of focus in on as far as like content goes. I think that this is the type of thing that really is fun about Sea of Thieves, and that they should try and work closer and closer to that as we kind of move into the future with other stuff. I
Everyone talks about it as a problem, but no one's really been talking about it as the feature it's meant to be, is wanting this voyage to be something that doesn't age out, that continues to allow ships to get together to fight each other for this precious treasure that the Reaper chest doesn't have, or any other item that has a beacon or any reason for you to grab it doesn't have, even the chest of ledges doesn't have, is that intrinsic to this voyage is if you sink, you will have another chance because you will spawn very close to give it another shot.
Yeah.
That keeps it that you always keep fighting people for it, or at least that it will help it continue to have ships fighting you for it.
Which is interesting because this was such a pain point when it came to skull forts in the first couple of years. Originally, skull forts, you spawned close if you got sunk, which meant that people were consistently under attack when trying to do skull fort. And they eventually moved ships who sank further away. And then that got regressed, and then they had to fix it and put it back.
What makes it work for this as opposed to those forts is that this is until the very end, always a moving target. You don't have to keep sitting there and defend.
Yep.
You're moving on to the next thing. And when you get to that final target, it's a target you want to get in, deliver, get out.
Yeah. And I think that's the key for why this voyage does so well is it kind of builds in that idea of the gilded Athena's chest. Like that was a thing that everyone was looking for, those gilded voyages, because you got 3 Athena's chests and you had to, like, everyone knew which islands they were going to be on. Everyone could tell, like, after Christmas, people are going to go to those islands. They're going to be digging, and then they're going to go to another island, and you knew where they were going to go and which 2 outposts were closest to it to be able to turn in those chests of fortune. And or
for
not
a game
chest of
called
fortune,
Sea of Thieves, there
Athena's
always
chest.
has to be a way you can predictably try to be a thief.
Yeah. Unless there's just a sea of them, in which case there's just going to be one lucky winner. That kind of covers, I think, as far as like the patch notes really just kind of talk about what the actual Skull of Siren song is. So as far as the patch notes go, if you were wondering if there were any tweaks or changes to it, no, not really. There hasn't been anything that they've been able to act on it because it's still pretty fresh. We will probably see tweaks in the future, but that, you know, it's hard to know like what that's going to look like. The other thing that I wanted to touch on real quick, because we're already pretty far into this episode, guild reputation balancing is in place now. We talked about it last week's episode with the community gold hoarders, that guilds are good but not really impactful. It feels just like another layer on top of captaincy, and it doesn't really feel like a guild. It just feels like your crew with another flag to a company that, you know, you have to work on. And I wanted to see, was there anything that you want to touch on this? Because the patch notes, for all intents purposes, it's a guild reputation balancing. They went ahead and made sure that the efforts that are put in towards treasure cashed in to all trading companies is now significantly more than what it was, to kind of bring it in line with Hourglass. And the Hourglass reputation earned has been slightly reduced. So they brought down Hourglass. They raised up the treasure turned into trading companies so that those should be more in line with the reputation earned.
Yeah, it's a good balance change.
Yep.
I got nothing more to say that. I am done with Hourglass, and I stopped at level 200 is what I need to be, and I'm level 250 in Reaper Hourglass Servants because it was the best way to level up my guild, and I wanted to get it to level 15.
Yeah.
So I did it during Gold to Glory, got my guild to level 15, so we could use the Emissary. And now that gold is worth more, turning stuff's worth more, great. I can level it through normal adventure more efficiently. It was a good call.
Yeah. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is the hit marker. Now we've gotten a chance. They're still working on things. They said that they were going to be bringing in the new high contrast kill marker. I like this. I think it's a good marker. It's an X that it's very sharp in design. Whether that's in keeping with like the aesthetic of UI elements for Sea of Thieves, I'm not really too concerned about. It's effectively what Blazing Sails uses. If you've been watching people stream, you may have noticed that Blazing Sails is using this exact essentially designed hit marker where the X will show up when you hit something and it will turn red when you've killed something. Sea of Thieves has effectively used a very similar system. I like it. I don't mind how it looks. I don't think it needs to be anything specific. It needs to be clear, identifiable information that's conveyed visually for folks to be able to know, like, did it hit? Did it kill? What do you, any thoughts on that? Or is that?
Sure. In the past, we've had to rely on almost purely sound and visuals if you happen to get a glimpse of it in all the chaos of whether or not you've confirmed a kill. Hearing that little woo, and if in the blaze of cannonballs and things you can see somebody get knocked over and their ghosts start to come up, but to add a visual indicator that is just as noticeable as the sound, that's what you want. Get that judicious redundancy in. Multiple ways I can know something has happened. Now the marker's turned red. I've got the sound. 2 different ways for me to easily see I've killed something. Perfect. Wonderful. Great idea. And it seems to me that the markers have always been there, not turning red, but have always been there and are just now bigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, it helps with people who are already debating, did I miss because of hit reg, or did I just miss? I definitely hit him. Did I just hit him? Because that marker was smaller, it was easier to get that confused. Now it's bigger. You get a bigger chance of saying that, I've got a marker that said I hit. So now it's harder for me to make a mistake saying whether or not it was hit reg.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it. I think they've done a good job with it. It is very uncanny. It's the similarity between Blazing Sails' hit marker and this one is uncanny. But much like jump, it's not copyrighted, so you can jump in any game because that's just how it works. Elements are going to look similar. If it works, it works. If they want to do it their way, they can do it their way. But I think this is a good way to go about it.
World of Warcraft has made its money off the back of stealing good ideas from other people. Oh, did this MMO did this? The MMO ended up dying, but that was a good idea I had. We're throwing it in the game.
Yeah.
Fortnite reboot vans came from what's that Fortnite like game? Apex Legends. You take a good idea, you take it. And
actually, in
the end, remember, Sea of Thieves has always had a hit marker. They just made it bigger. It was even the X.
Yeah.
They just made it bigger.
Yeah. And they added some contextual information as far as the kill. I think the kill is the best part. I think the kill is the
Very
thing
nice. Love it.
that really should kind of like, it should have been there. There should have been better information about that kind of thing. Like the yay or nay.
They always wanted to communicate to you. We know that because they added a specific sound. Even when a skeleton dies, there's a specific explosion sound. When you kill a ocean crawler, there's a specific screaming sound. When you kill a player, specific music sound.
Yeah.
They've always wanted to indicate to you anyway that it's dead. They're just doing it in another way so that you can be sure of it.
Yep. Okay, so going into little things that you may find around the world. The Pirate Emporium has new stock. I think I've talked about this in the past, but just a reminder, there's time-limited cosmetics in there for the Festival of Plenty stuff, as well as making sure that you're going in to get your Angry Scribe emote for free. There's also a Microsoft/Xbox/Steam store bundle that is the Wind and Weapon Pose bundle. Again, I'm always a fan of those because they tend to give you more for the cost of what they are. So it's always worth kind of picking those up, especially before the next season, because usually the amount of ancient coins that you get from those tend to be enough to get the next season plunder pass. If that's something that you like to invest in. There's also new gold leaf sets of clothing in the Outpost. I actually like them, very Robin Hood-esque. I'm glad that they did this. And the thing that I really wanted to kind of let people know about, if I haven't already, is the Legend of Monkey Island cosmetics. There's a new set of cosmetic rewards that are available for completing the tall tales that make up the Legend of Monkey Island. Funny enough, the tavern chef's uniform from the Journey to Melee Island is one that I was hoping would make its way to the game in some way, because the cosmetic that you get from the actual, like doing the actual voice or doing the actual tall tale is really awesome. So I was glad to see that that is something that's added there. There's also the Circus Superstar costume from the Quest for Guybrush, which is the second one. And then, of course, there's the Legend of Monkey Island Cutlass from the layer of LeChuck. So the way to unlock those is just to go through and make sure that you complete them once more. If you already have all the commendations done for them, if not, you will have to complete all the commendations for each of those to be able to unlock their respective costume.
Quick correction. You just have to complete the tall tale for the costumes. They don't require you to get every commendation.
Oh, really? Interesting.
Yes.
I read that differently on the commendations then.
Well, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong. Now that I think about it, because I already had everything.
Yeah.
So maybe, ignore me. Maybe I'm wrong now that I think about it.
Okay.
Because I often am.
Because I know that I haven't completed all of them. And you and I went back and actually did the first two for
first and third.
For the most part. And I just can't. The sword fighting in the second one takes so long.
Oh my gosh. I did it again just to get the costume.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this is even worse than I remembered.
It's so long to do. And I really wish that I didn't have to, because that is the thing that is holding me back from doing the second one, is that knowing it's like when you know you have to do the dishes, but you really don't want to do the dishes.
Yeah.
And it's only going to take 2 minutes, but it's just having to go and actually do them. That is the mental hurdle that you have to get past.
But in this case, the dishes will take an hour and a half.
Yes. It will be at least a 2-hour voyage, a 2-hour tour to have to get through. And the Gilligan is not there to impress you. Or maybe it's Marianne. I don't know. Whatever floats your boat. Why are you getting into Sea of Thieves? You're going to check this, aren't you? I just saw the Steam pop up. How dare you? You can't cheat on me.
I got bored, so I was going to fish while we're...
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, that's...
I'm podcasting.
Sorry, I'm boring
Is that okay?
you. Yeah.
I'll tell you guys, everyone tell me I'm right and Logan's wrong. I told them a long time ago we should do an episode where we fish while we do the episode, add in the nice, sound effects, record the game sounds of us fishing. So it's like we're just chatting while we're fishing, and he nixed it.
Yes.
And I bet you all would have loved that, wouldn't you? You let me know.
No.
Get in the comments, like, comment, and subscribe.
I tell you what.
Let us know.
This would be a situation where it would work. Safer seas. Safer seas where I don't have to worry about another crew interrupting us or ruining it or distracting us and having a 2-hour podcast turn into a 5-hour podcast because then we get distracted with other stuff. That would be an instance where I could say, okay, that would do it. But at the same time, I know how people are. And people tend to get distracted by the thing that's in front of them. And if they aren't focusing on doing something, then they're more they're listening and paying attention to the conversation that's being had because they're not distracted by other stuff. Like I have like a Ridge wallet thing that I push the cards in and I push the cards out. And that's my fidget spinner for when I'm talking in a podcast, because I have to have something like actively like in my hands or
Sure.
I'm moving my hands. I'm Puerto Rican. I'm moving my hands when I talk. So like doing fishing and stuff like that, I think would be an element that would detract from the sincerity of the conversation being had by people. But that's...
You talking about for us specifically or for others listening in?
For us specifically. Like it would detract from our conversation because...
Listen, I get it. I can't stream because I can't talk and play at the same time. Fishing is a basic enough task that would it be a problem. And even not on safer seas. Oh, does somebody come and sink us? Okay, we have nothing to save, or there's no reason why we can't just quick leave, start a new ship, and then again fish off of the island we spawn at. But what does it matter? What does it matter?
I will continue to refrain from that for the sake of having the podcast go on too long.
You guys have heard our arguments. Get in the comments. Tell us who was right, who was wrong. You want to hear us fish? You know why adults fish? It's not for that fish. It's for the camaraderie while you're fishing. I don't like actual fishing, but that sounds like a fun thing that I'm missing out on. All right. Journey to Melee Island. Costume. You very helpful. Thanks a lot. You know how it changes once you complete it?
Yeah.
To give you a past tense. You've completed the journey to Melee Island. Completed could mean either one.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've got no help here.
No, that's fine. So, okay. Getting into, I think that's effectively it as far as the show notes, or as far as the, not the show notes, as far as the patch notes go. There's not a whole lot outside of that.
There is a thing or two.
Okay. So players will now be able to hear a subtle audio cue after firing the last bullet, letting them and other players know that they are out of ammo. I have not heard this.
I have. It's very useful. I'm not saying I have because I am high end, but it is useful in high end combat to know, hey, that guy's out of ammo.
Yeah.
Even on lower end, if you get used to this noise, it's helpful. That guy's out of ammo.
Yeah. I definitely agree. I have not cued into that actual thing.
And we don't want to admit it, but it's happened to all of us where you've pointed your gun, you've pulled the trigger, and you heard the click.
The dead man's click.
Didn't realize you were out of ammo.
I coined that phrase.
It's easier to avoid that.
I will maintain that I coined that phrase before other people came up with it. I will stick to that. Much like Duke being a Dark Lord, I will not let that go.
And if I were to pick out one of the fixed issues to talk about, just because it was such a big problem, is rowboats don't go through the environment anymore. That was a big issue.
Where were they going through the environment?
You didn't see any of this?
No.
Oh my gosh. I believe it was if you used a rowboat that had been saved over a session. So like you saved your captain ship, you left the session, you came back, and now you start with a rowboat. You undock that rowboat, you could just row through the environment. So people would like have, who wasn't aware this was a bug, would have all of their treasure, go to row, turn it in, and now it's stuck under the island and they cannot get it out. Goodbye, all your treasure. And then, of course, there's a myriad of ways you could take advantage of this situation to hit people from under an island. Long ago, you could get under Reapers, I don't know how.
Oh, yeah.
And just kill people without being retaliated against. This. And you could certainly do that from any island now with this rowboat. So that got fixed was, I think, I'm glad that got fixed quick.
That's true. I forgot to scroll down. So there are fixed issues. Sailing Athena's Fortune Emissary flags will now progress the Pathetic Tokens commendation.
Yes. I'm level 250 and I have like 10 flags turned in. I should have my 100.
Yes.
I asked them, hey, can you fix this? I said, we can't manually increase your commodity,
the commendation value
in this game. Thank you. Commendation value in the game. And I'm like, you just increased my Reaper chest commendation and my legendary chest. What do you call it? Chest of Legends. Don't tell me that. But
they didn't increase it. They changed the baseline. They didn't give you more than you'd ever turned in. They just changed like what the baseline of the next value grade was.
Yeah. Well, they made it to 59 when I had over 59. So they did manually change it to a number that was not what I had earned. So, okay. All
right.
But there's a million fixes here. We certainly don't have to go over all of them. A lot of them are like the tall tale ones. I'm so happy to see these fixes. My least favorite thing in the world is when somebody introduces something and then you wash your hands of it, you move on, and like, all right, well, it's in the past now. When I got into Hearthstone, I think last year, there was like cool secret missions, but they got bugged out with new releases and they never fixed them for years. And so I couldn't do the secret missions.
Yeah.
I hate that sort of thing. I'm so glad that they are continuing to go back to their old content, fixing it. There's a million fix issues on this list. I was very happy to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's fair to say that there were definitely a lot of issues with specifically the layer of LeChuck. That commendation, that achievement should now be able to pop if you've had issues with it. I have seen some really weird situations where I think people had logged in and the commendation for the layer of LeChuck had popped. And then additionally, a random arena achievement that they had popped again. And it didn't it didn't make any sense at all. It was just very, very odd. So you should be able to go get that one now. If you're looking at that achievement, if you wanted to get that commendation to finish, the layer of LeChuck should now work. And I confirmed when I went through and did it again that it did pop up for me. There's a couple other things. Players should no longer get stuck on palm trees at Keelhauled Fort. I planted those specifically so that folks would get stuck on them. I'm very disappointed that they've relocated and shifted that. I'm gonna have to go fix that now as a result, and it's kind of frustrating that I have to spend the time to go actually do that, but for the time being, you should be safe. You should be able to not have to worry about that. So it looks like the costumes and the cosmetics that came in this patch are just for actually completing the tall tale. It doesn't look like you actually have to complete all the commendations. So
You mean just finishing it?
Yeah, you can just finish the tall tale. You don't have to complete everything in the commendations for that tall tale to be able to unlock it once completing it. You can just go actually complete it.
Can I say real quick, just a thought that I had about the siren thing?
No.
Is that I think Briggsy is one of the more likable characters Sea of Thieves is introduced. When you like they have to use splash art and stuff like that, Briggsy's skeleton form is always on that, and I was like, okay, I guess she was cool, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Now I understand why she's in the front. I think she's a great character, and I'm enjoying seeing her and her personality in this game.
She embodies kind of what I think Sea of Thieves is all about: being a rogue pirate, just going out for adventure and glory. It's not about it's more about the glory for her than I think we've ever seen Ramsey care about. Like he talks the talk, but it's not something.
Briggsy walks the walk.
Yeah, it's not something we've seen him do. And yeah, I get it. He's retired, but you know what? He still seems pretty active. He's still out there getting his steps in. He's still using that weird walking stick that he has. He still hasn't told us about the daggers.
I can't relate close enough to her because she never asked to be cursed, and all I want is more curses. Equip them all the time.
That's fair. Yeah. The more curses, the better. She accepts the one that she had, but I can't think of I ruined the joke. I can't think of the quote of it's not the Batman that we deserve, it's the one that we got, or something like that. I can't think of it.
No, that's the better version, and I demand that we all now use that version.
Oh God.
But now she must have been good at Hourglass. She's got the ghost curse now, so she goes from one to the other. Poor girl.
Yeah, can you imagine like wanting a ghost curse and having to go through all that just to die with a ghost curse instead of just dying and
Briggsy dabs on us because she had the gold bones curse. She was very good at Hourglass. She's just now starting to work on her guardians, and she dabbed on us because she could wear clothes with her curse. So this lady's been ahead of us by miles for years.
No idea what you're even referencing, but despite her youthful looks, Captain Briggsy has spent many years roaming the Sea of Thieves, being present for both the parlay of the Pirate Lord and subsequent Kraken attack, which, if you remember, is from the first book. Her current quest for the Skull of Siren Song promises to be even more eventful. According to the hashtag Trivia Tuesday, that was the other thing that I wanted to bring up in this episode. I love those little Trivia Tuesdays and stuff. And I'm hoping that we get a little bit more details about Briggsy, because I agree. She is a fantastic character for Sea of Thieves and really does kind of showcase like what most of us want to embody when we play this game. I think, in my opinion, I could be, you can more than welcome to have a differing opinion on this. I'm trying to think if there was. I know I had another thing that I wanted to dive into.
I know what you wanted to talk about. You wanted to talk about a special message that Joe Taro shared with us via the Discord and I think Twitter.
That's right. Yes. Okay. So not to put her on the spot, because I don't know if she did it for the tweet, but she did post it for the actual Discord. There's something coming. We don't know what it is. It's probably doom and gloom. But I think everyone should get their pitchforks out now and their tiki torches so that they can be enraged in the coming months. Actually, since I'm still in Maiden Voyage, I'm gonna actually take a look at the season 10. So 11 weeks is what we're looking at for season 11, which would put us roughly around February. Am I right? It's about 8 weeks. Or no, actually, that'd probably be mid-February to late February.
Don't ask me to do math, especially on the spot. Can't do it for you. Can't do simple, basic addition. Not going to happen.
Let's see. When is 11 weeks from now?
And I did go through all of it.
February 11th. Okay. Thank you, Google. Thank you, Bing, for that. So
I cried.
Around February 11th, which if I'm looking at the actual calendar, it would actually probably, the new season would probably be out on the 15th. of February, because that would be the first.
Capcom was all like, "Can you find the area under this graph?" I'm like, "I'm not doing that."
That would be the first Thursday after the end of the 11-week period. So the 15th or the 22nd is probably going to be when season 11 starts. The information that we received that it has me scratching my head because it's so early on is Sea of Thieves put out a post on social media, pretty much everywhere, letting us know that we need to go and actually complete any unique voyages that we have that are time limited or issued as part of an event or compensation. Those are all going to be gone at the end of season 10, which is in the first weeks of February. And this includes gilded voyages as well, too. This caused a bit of stir in the community, and I'm not necessarily like upset that they're doing it. I'm more upset that I don't know why they're doing it. And this was something that I wanted to kind of bring up just to kind of give folks an opportunity to be like, hey, you guys really need to be aware. Like, this is the thing that's going to cause you an issue if you don't, if you're holding on to something. So we don't know why they're doing it, but these are going to be things like Bilge Rat Adventures, Mercenary Missions, Mea Culpa missions. What did they actually call those? Restitution voyages. I've been calling them Mea Culpa voyages for so long. So voyages of restitution or restitution voyages, those are going to be gone. Make sure that you're getting an opportunity to go and get those knocked out. I will tell you, the last time I had a Bilge Rat Adventure voyage that I went to go do, it did not work. And yeah, I put it down. I went to go dig up the dig and nothing happened.
I'm not surprised. I'm actually more shocked that they still are available to do. You figure that like the stuff that was in it for those to work are gone now.
It's weird because a lot of those were still in the game. Like a lot of stuff is still in the game, and many of the items are just items that we normally have. But for whatever reason, the voyage themselves had actually broken. And
I'd be interested if the ritual skull you can dig up from an old Bilge Rat adventure. You could dig up ritual skulls, those like little cute little boat effigies and things like this. If you could, and then like the shark effigy that the Athena one started out as just a regular shark effigy for a Bilge Rat voyage.
Yeah,
I'd be interested if you could use that ritual skull to actually start a Fort of the Damned.
Maybe. I imagine you probably could. I can't see why not, because I imagine the item itself is probably the same item ID. It's probably just like the functionality of it's changed.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know. But regardless, the main goal here is that a very weird kind of nondescript tweet and message went out from them saying like, hey, you've got 11 weeks to work on these. And do you think that this is something that if they know they're going to be putting this into season 11, that they should just come out and let us know like the reason why, like what is the feature that they're going to be doing? Or do you think it's fine that they're just like, hey, we're just giving you a heads up, we'll talk more later?
I totally understand why you would want more information. Who wouldn't? I understand why they're not giving it. They don't want to give away what is going to happen next season, but they also don't want you to have, they're going to tell you what's going on next season soon before it happens. They don't want you to only have a week or 2 weeks to use all those voyages. Everyone would say, I wish you had told us ahead of time so we knew to use these voyages. So they're telling you ahead of time without having to show their hand, which they don't want to do till they get closer to the season. I understand.
All right. Well, yeah, I'm always bummed. I'm looking forward to it. I know that we've got community weekend coming up next week, I believe it is. And that's going to be really interesting. I am curious, as someone who's gone and grinded out a lot of the Hourglass commendations for the cosmetics. Do you think Hourglass is in a good spot with the long-term rewards that they've kind of built in? Do you think that the leveling of and this is kind of a baited question. I recognize that. I'm leading the witness, Your Honor. Do you think that the reputation's fine as far as the gain, or do you think that people waiting to do them on Golden Glory weekends is an indicator that rare should probably increase the leveling or how fast it is to level through hourglass.
It took me a little less than a year to get it. And that's somebody who played pretty consistently to try and get it.
Yeah.
And especially with last season where that was pretty much all there was to do, was to continue with that. So those who want something that lasts forever, it's well set. I personally feel that when you did the boosted rep for Golden Glory and other such events, that's when it actually felt right to me. I wasn't a big fan when they nerfed how long it takes to level up past 100. That wasn't my bag, so I do think it should be boosted a little bit. How much gold you get from hourglass, not gold, reputation you get from hourglass. Gold you probably get enough. I wish it was a little faster myself, but listen, everyone will get. It's so frustrating when I deal with people who enjoy this game is that you always have the same conversation, and I'm a kind of person that just wishes I wouldn't have to have the same conversation over and over again. So I've disengaged from it. Of whenever you say something should be faster, the 100% of the time you'll get the response of, "Oh, well, you think it should be just given instantly?" I like long-term goals. Yeah, I like long-term goals too. Do you think if it took 1,000,000 wins to get a level, that's too much? Oh, you do. Okay, so we can both agree that there is a too much while still wanting a long-term goal. Okay, great. Now we can actually have conversations like adults. I think it is too much just to get a level. It should have been, reduced a little bit. I'm not one of the people who say, level 200 to 1,000, there needs to be more rewards. No, you're fine. Really? I think getting to level 200 to get just about everything that you can get, sans like I'm missing one or two pieces that would require me to get the win 500 faction battles against the enemy faction after having gotten your curse, which is too high. I've talked about this before. Aside from that, I have everything for the Guardians, and that's at level 200. So that's fine. From 200 up to 1,000, just because the 1,000 reward exists, people say that. The 1,000 reward is just there for those streamers, for the people who this is what they want. This game mode won't get old for them. They like the 1v1. They're the kind of people who get mad when there's a curse ball because they want the 1v1. Everything's even except our skill level. That's what they want. So they gave them something, a little, hey, here you go. For loving this mode and playing it almost exclusively. Here's your level 1,000. And certainly getting evil to level 100 is not attainable for most players. Getting to level 200 is not attainable for even more players. You're getting a very small fraction. There's no reason there should be rewards and any more rewards for things above level 200. And I, in fact, believe that I should already have the rewards at level 200. I don't even like that there's some ones I don't have. Sans the level 1,000.
Okay. I agree to some parts. I disagree on some parts. But I think that's because I'm hoping that there was going to be more content added to Hourglass, like more cosmetics, more functionality. Like if I wanted a purple ghost,
sure.
I could have had.
No, I agree with you there.
I was hoping that would be something that would eventually come to Hourglass, that they would be able to fill out the rest of those levels. But it didn't come. It's kind of like starting a games as a service and having the first season planned and then nothing after. And then, 6 months comes by, you're still in season 1 and everyone's like, is this game going to make it?
I hear where you're coming from. It's been about a year since this came out and we've gotten no changes to it. Sans right when it came out and they made those little balance adjustments.
Yeah.
I agree with you. There should be more things. I wish there was more skeleton parts, more, Reaper things, since we got a lot more stuff for Guardians than we did for the Servants.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that. I don't think they should be put in the 200 and up track. Gotcha. I think those should be things you can get on your way to 100 and 200.
Gotcha. And I the only reason I have
to get to level 100, all you're getting is figureheads. That's it.
Yeah.
It's the same figurehead but changed a little bit. That's all you're getting. Though there's the spot where you can throw in some more stuff.
Yeah. And I say this fully knowing like this kind of goes counter to some of my other opinions and stuff like that. The reason I feel that this is the exception to the normal, how I feel about this kind of thing is that there is that 1,000, that level 1,000 reward. So I was assuming that was the long term. They didn't anticipate people getting it as quickly as they did, and that they would eventually fill out the rest of those 300 levels or 800 level, 800 levels, which is a ridiculous amount of time spent.
Yeah, no, I think anyone who's thinking about that is really being blinded by that level 1000 reward. It's really twisting them and putting some critical skills there, bud.
So
listen, Calc 2, I got to Calc 2. Hey, let's take the area of this graph, now make it 3D, find the volume of my fist, dude. I don't want to do that, but you know what Calc 2 taught me? Freaking critical thinking.
Fair.
Get some of that brain juice going, my dude.
All right. I think that was the majority of the stuff that I had on my docket. Was there anything that you saw that you wanted to pick out to make sure that we got a chance to talk about?
It's been so long since I've been on. This last season lasted so long, however, that there was not a lot that came out that I've had building up to talk about. So no.
Fantastic. I think that would probably be a good closing stop for us then. There's going to be more information as we continue into the season regarding Safer Seas. I think that's kind of the next big thing that Rare is going to be introducing. I will be very curious to see how this impacts the mind share of the community, because I genuinely don't think that it will actually impact how people are, what people are seeing on servers, because the very degree that we even talked about this episode of how the general vibe of a server is. Server vibes change from server to server. It could, you could get on a really chill one at the beginning of a session. You could, swap over and find a really salty one. It just depends on the people that you're running into, if you're running into people. The only other thing that I wanted to just touch on real quick is just a reminder, the upcoming weekend that we talked about, the Season 10 Community Weekend, that is going on from December 2nd to December 4th. And all pirates can join in. You can set sail. You get that really beautiful flag for the community weekend. They're also going to have Twitch drops that are available. And if you want, they're doing the pop-up plunder, which I think is a huge success. I just hope that
was very fun.
Yeah, it's great. I think it's a really good idea. It's a good way to kind of engage with people who are like trying to boost the emissary grade as well. Because the emissary grade, however it's done, it's kind of unlocked specific ways. This way, it's going to be raised by tuning into streamers with the Sea of Thieves category on Twitch, not partners, just streamers. So watching people on Twitch will raise the community emissary grade, which will unlock gold reputation, renown, and allegiant boosts for all players during that weekend. So on top of getting your Twitch drops, you will be raising the emissary grade. I think that is a much more sound approach to doing it, as opposed to the hashtag Sea of Thieves community weekend. I imagine they will probably be doing another round of hats for folks. So if you have people in the community that don't have a hat that you think deserve a hat, I would love to get some names to do some research on them to kind of like shout out for this, and to kind of like use, social media as a way to kind of prop them up as well too. Caleb's one of them, in the sense that he's working on this Sea of Thieves RPG. So if he's able to get the second and or third episode out by the time this weekend goes up, it would be a great way to kind of like showcase that, hey, this is something someone's doing that is a nice boon to the community for something that, for all intents and purposes, I don't hear anyone talk about the SOT RPG in any fashion.
I actively don't want you to do that.
Too bad.
The last thing I want is Sea of Thieves to actually notice my podcast.
Well, it's going to happen. Well, it may not happen, but I'm going to try to make it a thing. But if other people are out there,
just like, when I was a young boy.
No, get out of here with your story. Okay. No, I'm just kidding. What's the story?
When I was a young content creator, I was like, oh boy, what if Paizo, the people who make Pathfinder, which I did my podcast about, noticed me senpai? That'd be so great. Them noticing me only ever caused major troubles, and I am content to never interact with them again, and hope they never notice me again. And I feel very much the same way. Sea of Thieves, I have no interest in Rare noticing me or my podcast or saying, hey, it's cool or anything. I actively hope they never find me.
Well, that makes it tough.
I'm not making it for them, boys. I'm not making it make money. I'm making it because I like to make art. and like to talk about that art with people who enjoy it.
Fair enough. All right. The offer is still out there. I am still curious to know if you know someone that hasn't gotten a hat, if you think they deserve a hat, I'd love to kind of get like a couple gamer tags out there so that I can see folks like kind of touching base with the dev team during that weekend to kind of shout them up, give them some props, so that they can get a hat. That is honestly, it's just nice. It's a nice little tip of the cap to take the phrase and let people know like what's going on. All right, pirates. I think that's going to do it. Caleb, thank you so much for joining me this weekend. I know it's something you wanted to do for a while now, and we got a chance to actually do it. Let people know if there's anything else going on besides the Tide Blazers that we've been talking about this episode, that they can go check out content or where they can reach you with thoughts and opinions.
Always a pleasure to come on. Thank you so much for inviting me on. I love talking with you, having a chat about this stuff. It's really great. It brings me a lot of joy. So happy to be able to do it. Thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Yeah, of course.
If you want to get more of me and what I do, we released our first episode in 2 years of Trailblazer Academy, where you can learn how to play different, mostly Pathfinder, but also there's things in there to play any sort of role-playing game. We did a great episode recently came out. We also, Trailblazer's still going strong. It goes slow because of scheduling things. To schedule adults is the true final boss of any role-playing game. But those episodes are still coming out. A great new season 3 story. I hope you're enjoying it. And of course, Tide Blazers. You can find any of those shows at tblazer.net. It's the letter T, blazer.net, or in your favorite podcatcher. Search for Tide Blazers, Trailblazers, or Trailblazer Academy, and you'll find it no problem.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining me, pirates. That's going to do it for this episode. If you enjoyed the content, definitely make sure you reach out. I will wrap up the end of the episode in a minute, and I'll see you in a second. All right, pirates, that's going to do it for this episode of the Keelhauled podcast. If you guys want to get a hold of me, there's plenty of ways that you can do that. Head over to Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN or Threads at the same handle, or you can send in an email to CAPTLOGUN@gmail.com. Obviously, the best ways to get a hold of me or to share some thoughts or feelings on this episode will be over on the Discord. The Discord is free for everyone. You can jump in, say hi. There's a tavern talk. There's a whole consoles section there for folks that want to play other games on other consoles. And we have a whole bunch of folks sharing pictures of the holidays and other things like that. Feel free to drop in your photos from some of the decorations or food that you've been having over the holidays. Otherwise, that is probably the best way to do it. Make sure to support this content for free by liking and subscribing or sharing it with someone else, or giving it a rating over on Spotify or an iTunes review. Plenty of ways to have a way to support content. Yeah, that still doesn't feel right. There's plenty of ways to support without necessarily having to join up for the patrons. Thank you again so much for your love and support. And pirates, with that, thank you. I love you. And I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.